Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. Welcome to Transfer Hub, your home of Aston Villa's transfer news, links, noise, murmurings, incomings, outgoings. I'd like to thank you all. Yesterday we hit 26,000 subscribers, absolutely massive. So still get on the journey with us. New subscribers are welcome, helping to grow this channel. Smash the like button and comment your thoughts on everything that I discuss on this episode. Really good one and a really interesting, insightful look into the mind of Unai Emery today. We have got an interview that has dropped on Villa TV, and I have sort of, what's the word, like narrated it word for word, writ it down. I don't know whether that's the right word or not, but I've written it down word for word. The key parts I think are really interesting. And he does talk about the transfer window, which is very important. And he also talks about the squad, which is very important. And he also talks about the Premier League and team strengthening, which is very important. And finally, he does talk about pre-season and what he looks for in pre-season. So with all that said, let's get stuck into this Unai Emery interview then. So the first question, well, one of the questions was, are you happy with what you have seen so far in pre-season? And Unai goes on to say, we did two first steps. Firstly, with young players, we have responsibility with them to know how we are working, how it's young and the level we want to achieve. The second step is to try to get fit again with the players, how we build our structure for the season. Some young players are still with us. Maybe the squad can change the last month, weeks in August for the transfer window, but the overall structure is more or less now here. The target is not the result. The target is now to play, sharing players. We are not focusing on the starting 11, focusing on overall structure. So he has implied in here that the squad can change in the last month, weeks in August for the transfer window, which is good to hear that we may have signings upon the horizon. But it's also good that, and we know Unai's elite, don't we? We know he's elite, and he will look to young players to nurture, to coach, to grow those players as well. And I think if he can take one or two and promote them and give them an opportunity, that's absolutely huge. And I do think there's one, and I do think he does mention something about the youth players again. So I do think that's important. But I think the one is Jimo Aloba. There was a really good question about, does he feel energized, and sort of getting into the mindset of Unai and how he's feeling. I think it's important to know the vibe with Unai. So I do think this is a really good question. He said the energy is every day. You have to try to work to get it. The commitment we have here still being so strong. The objective we have still is very ambitious objective. Europe for me is very important. Premier League is always been the first objective because it's the most difficult league, most difficult league in the world. To try to be contender for trophies, Carabao FA Cup is very important. Still work to do. I'm very excited by our objectives we are going to face this year. To work with young players, to promote, to develop, to be the future important players of Aston Villa in the structure. So I also think that element is quite important as well. And maybe the window has shifted that slightly. So we have to promote within. But I always stick by, if they're good enough, they will play. That is my main. I have always stood by this whenever I've looked at football, not just Aston Villa. If you're good enough, you'll play. And we're starting to kind of see that a little bit with some of the players that are going out on loan. Ozcan rumoured to go to Anderlecht. Now, if you look at Aston Villa's defensive structure at the minute, we need a right-sided centre-half. Is he predominantly left-sided? He might be, but he's going on loan. So the players that are in and around the team at the minute that are getting minutes, we've got Patterson, we've got Jimo Aloba, we've got Rowe at right back, who you guys know that I absolutely love. But Jimo Aloba, for me, is the one that I think I'd be more confident to say can get some real decent minutes at Aston Villa. There's a couple of others like Ealing Jr., but I'm not sure on Ealing Jr., to be honest. So he's also spoke about the Premier League more competitive. He went on to say, of course, we are achieving our objective. Some teams are starting in front of us, Tottenham, Man United, last year, Newcastle. Those teams have great power to beat us and are signing very important players, but structure is the most important. How we are keeping, extending some of our players, and as well being clinical in our decisions to add or join us some new players. We are ready to do our best to get it. Europe is what he was implying in that conversation. So again, I think this is all part of Unai Emery as well, to be honest, because we go into every season with Unai prioritising the Premier League. We go into the season with Unai Emery saying certain teams are ahead of us, such as Tottenham, Man United. But within Unai's, especially last 2 seasons at Aston Villa, we've been able to finish above them. And I think that's important for Emery. And I think getting the gist of what Emery's talking about here, about structure, I think he's actually talking about everything that he's built at Aston Villa. And I think, yes, we can all say that we'd like to see some new signings, but the core structure of what we're working with and how we're working and what we're working towards is exactly the same as what it was when we was in the Champions League. It's exactly what it was like last season. That continuity of Unai's demands, the players knowing how demanding Unai is, already sets us to a certain level. And I think, yes, new players will enhance that, but players within the current squad can raise a level and get there. So when he talks about the structure, I think he's talking about his philosophy, his mentality, how demanding he is. I think he's talking about all those things. And structurally, it's very, very solid. And, that holds a lot. So how important is Europe? He went on to say Europe is a way for a trophy. Champions League is the best. Europa League is the second. And the prestige through it is important for the club and the players. And try to be one challenge for us with a trophy, playing more matches. I think we can manage and get better in our management with the players for the season. Of course, more demanding and more opportunity. Everybody will have an opportunity to show capacity in different competitions. So again, we are able to offer the squad a lot of minutes. And I think when you look at and think, what's Villa's best 11? We kind of have to see through that at times and think, well, because there's so many matches, he went on to talk about 55 matches plus international matches. You're looking at around 60 for some of our players this current season coming up. Rotating with certain players is really important. And then he went on to talk about question was aimed at sort of like how he's feeling going into sort of like the season. He's put, I am so happy how we are doing the process and how much involved the owners to support our demand as a coach and as our objective, getting always the best through it, sign players through work, hard work, support working in 4 competitions. So proud how we are doing it. Thankful now they are supporting it. So again, really important, I think, that question there about the owners and how he's particularly feeling about this current Aston Villa situation in what we're in with signings, etc. And if he's happy, I'm happy. So I think that's the general gist of how I'm feeling. I think it was insightful just to get a feeling of how he's feeling, what are his thoughts. Again, he's not coming out there mentioning new players. I've seen an interview with David Moyes this week, and he's sort of laying it on thick about signings. I need players, I need my players to come in, etc. So he hasn't done that. Maybe because this interview was with the club, but it was with national press. Well, national press as in press from over here. So they could have asked him a question. I don't know whether it was sort of like, you can't ask certain questions regarding this. But he seems driven. He seems like he's up for the challenge this season, and it's really good to see. It's good to get a little bit of an understanding of how he's working, where his mindset's at, how he's looking at pre-season. And I think the important thing is he has mentioned new signings. So I do feel like signings will come towards the end of the window. So pretty good. There are little rumours this morning about Sesko choosing Newcastle. None of the big boys have gone in on this yet, but would it mean Manchester United go back in for Watkins, having laid all their cards thick on Sesko? I'm not so sure. So that is something that we are going to have to keep our eye on. But I think nice interview from Emery, nice thoughts, good to hear from him, how he's feeling. Has it made me feel a bit better? Probably, because I think when Unai talks, I tend to listen and hang on to a lot of his words on how he's feeling. So go and check the full interview out. It's on Villa TV, and you'll be able to sort of hear your thoughts, well, find your thoughts on what you think of the situation. But I think it's always good to hear from your manager midway through pre-season. We have got the watch along tonight. I'll be going live at about 9:30. So we'll have half an hour chat before the game, and then we can all watch the game together as well. So yeah, if there's any other news during the day, I'll jump on. If not, then thank you everyone for watching. Cheers, the 26k of you. You are all legends, and thank you for helping this channel grow and be what it is. So cheers everyone. Up the Villa and up the Unai.